And I think did I start probability with y'all because I kind of jumped the gun. I should have started correlation and causality. So did I jump the gun with y'all and did I go into probability?
Yep.
Okay, so hold off on the probability. I need to cover the causality and correlation. So with that being said, I'm going to pull up the handy dandy whiteboard or the document cam, and I'm going to go ahead and write down. Let's go ahead and start with this. And for some reason, one day the autofocus will work. The next day it doesn't. I really think it's what is it? The Russians' fault. I believe that is probably the best focus right in there. I got to learn what autofocus C and autofocus S is. I don't know what autofocus C and autofocus S. I don't know. Well, anyway, write this down. This is what we're going to be doing in correlation and causality. Correlation and causality starts off, and you may see in the 103 book, since the 103 book does everything backwards, it will probably talk about causality and correlation in the middle of probability. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and teach it first because that's the way I do in the 120. And basically correlations is a pattern. Usually when you're dealing with scatter plots, and you might want to write that down out to the side, scatter plots, you're going to be working with correlation. Correlation is a number. It is represented by R. And it is between -1 and +1. Now, it has a direct relationship to slope. And that relationship is the same direction. If you have a positive slope, that means you're going to have a positive correlation. If you have a negative slope, that means you're going to have a negative correlation. Now, what I just told you is a test question. That is a test question. So make sure you write that down. Okay? Positive slope, positive correlation. Negative slope, negative correlation. All right, you're going to have to go ahead and finish putting on your coat because that just drives me crazy. Hurry up. Go ahead. All right. Now, what's the difference between correlation and slope? Well, the difference is correlation only goes from -1 to +1. Slope can be any number, so that's the difference between the two. All right, what else? Well, before we go on, I want to show you this, and I've already said some of this, but I want you to write down these 3 graphs. 3 graphs. These are test questions. So far I've given you 1 test question, and now I'm giving you 3 test questions, which basically this section is going to make up about 20% of your test. All right, you got 1 graph, and the dots, make sure you draw the dots because that's what a scatter plot looks like. It's just a bunch of dots. And you'll see that in just a minute when we actually go into the slides and all that good stuff. And here's where I wrote slope can be any number. And I've already given you all this. Now, when you draw a scatter plot, the first thing they're going to ask you to do is find the line of best fit or the line of regression. And that is a line that's drawn through the points, and it is a straight line. Now, a lot of people say, well, Are you going to make us do the math? No, I'm not. Because the math is tedious. You thought standard deviation was tedious? Finding the line, the best fit line is about 3 times tedious, more tedious than standard deviation by hand. So I'm going to rely on the calculator as well as the Excel spreadsheet to show you how to find the line of best fit. Here is an example, number 2, of a pattern that is a negative correlation. And then there is a pattern here that shows no correlation. And of course, with no correlation, M is 0, means a horizontal line. Negative correlation means a negative slope, and positive correlation means a positive slope. So there's 3 questions right there, or 1 question. They may ask you, find the negative slope or the negative correlation, and you pick 2 or B. Or that will be the type question you'll see on the test. Okay? So that is pretty much the type of question I will ask you on the graph of correlation. Now, there's also a relationship between the slope and the correlation coefficient, or the correlation, meaning the steepness. And my red pen went out yesterday. I got this one, but it don't write good. Steepness. The higher the number on slope, the higher the more steep your line is. But the steepness on correlation is how strong it is. How strong the correlation is. So with slope, the steepness increases as the number increases. The most steep line here is the slope with 12. Whereas the closer you are to -1 and +1, that shows how strong the correlation is. So if I have a 0.97, if I have R is equal to 0.97, that is a strong positive correlation. But if I have R is equal to -0.85, that is a strong negative correlation. Anything around 0.5, -0.5, or +0.5, you're talking about a moderate correlation. And the closer you get to 0, that's the weaker correlations. So the steepness tells you how strong a correlation is. That is a test question. They will give you 3 graphs, and they will say strong, moderate, and weak. And then they'll tell you to match the graph with the strength of the correlation, whether it's strong, whether it's moderate, or whether it's weak. Question, gripe, complaint. All right. So that's the first thing about correlation and causality. Causality. What is causality? Cause and effect. I drink too much wine, I have to pee. That comes from the Matrix. I didn't make that up, okay? So don't, that comes from a movie for some of y'all that don't have a sense of humor, okay? And the Matrix, the second Matrix movie, they walk into the French restaurant, and the guy that likes to hear himself talk, he's talking in a French accent, and he's the owner of the restaurant. And he says, I just love wine, but cause and effect. I drink too much wine, I have to pee. And that is cause and effect. That is the best explanation of cause and effect, because one causes the other. If you load your car down with people and luggage, what's that going to do to the gas mileage? It's going to decrease the gas mileage. Cause and effect. If you drink too much, you're going to have to go to the bathroom because, you know, you drink too much wine, you have to pee. That is cause and effect. Cause and effect is when something causes the effect. And that's, I hate to be, I don't want to insult your intelligence, but that's what causality is. You either have causality you either not have causality. Well, there is a lurking variable. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then no causality. I can't spell. All right. You either have causality or you don't have causality. And the lurking, we'll get to that in just a minute. Now, I'm going to give you another test question right here. I'm giving you these test questions left and right. Here's another test question. Write that down. It's one of the rules of probability. Correlation does not equal causality. And you can use these words to impress people, make you think you're smart. You can use this, you know. Correlation does not equal causality, but causality equals correlation. Now, if you don't know what that means that just because you have correlation does not mean you have cause and effect. Now, I'm going to write down two words that you have to use when dealing with correlation and causality. You have to look at the context of the question, and you have to use a little bit of this. It's kind of like a sense of humor. Some people don't have it. Common sense. I always want to put a C in common sense. I don't know why I want to do that. All right? Don't ask me. It comes from childhood. We won't get into that. All right? I always want to put a C in here. I hope. Please tell me that it's an S. I hope it is. All right. You have to have these. When you're reading a question and they ask you if there's correlation, well, mathematically, you can prove correlation mathematically. Okay? Mathematically, you can prove correlation. But causality, I'm not going to say is subjective, but it needs a little bit of feel for the question. And it needs to have a little bit of common sense. Let me give you an example. Let's say that I work at a movie theater, which is bogus because I would never work in the public because I would hit somebody. So let's say that in Dreamland, I work at a movie theater. There's one in Anderson near Lowe's. I have to take my children there whenever they want to go see a movie. I hate it, but I have to. And let's say that I work there and there's a Nicolas Cage movie called Con Air. It's got great actors, but it's a terrible movie. But anyway, Con Air. And it's got Nicolas Cage in it. Nicolas Cage is one of those actors that are out there floating. They're out, they just not realistic. And people make fun of him because the only reason he's an actor is because his uncle is Scorsese or whatever his name, the famous Hollywood actor and all that, director and producer. Scorsese, I can't think of his name. But anyway, and do you know who Nicolas Cage's cousin is? Anybody? Yo, Adrian from Rocky.
Rocky Balboa.
Talia Shire, or whatever her name is his cousin. And they both have the famous director, producer, Scorsese, did The Godfather and all that, or whatever his name is. Anyway, people give Nicolas Cage a hard time because he's out there floating and he's not that good of an actor. So, the movie Con Air, I'm working there for and taking a class at Tri-County Tech in Math 120, and I got to turn in a project. So I do 3 months of statistics on Nicolas Cage's movie. And it looks like this, and I go, well, there's a correlation of 0.85. Everybody with me? I mean, that's not hard to figure out. All right. And then I go over to the hospital and I look up the suicide deaths for those 3 months. Same 3 months. And it looks like this, with a correlation of 0.82. So I go back to my Math 120 class and I tell people that Nicolas Cage movies causes suicide. Nicolas Cage causes suicide, causes people to commit suicide. And you would say what?
That's a coincidence.
Coincidence? Who said that? I got to look. I got to see who's
Justin.
Well, thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. You can always rely on Mr. Justin to interact with me. All right. So I would say more than coincidence is BS. Okay. Why? Because I'm thinking common sense. Is there any way possible that a Nicolas Cage movie could cause you to commit suicide? Bad acting is not a reason to commit suicide. There's all kinds of things that help a person commit suicide, all right? Or that makes a person commit suicide. But it's not a bad movie, all right? This is an example of correlation does not equal causality. Correlation does not equal causality. Always remember, I drink too much wine, I have to pee. That is correlation is equal to causality. You have a direct, effect coming from a cause. Now, I'm spending a lot of time on causality and correlation, just the definition. Why? Because it is a question on standardized test, and it is a question on my test, and I will test you on it. So that's why I'm going over it. All right. I do want you to make sure you read up in your book, wherever it is, but it's somewhere in the, oh gosh, I can't even remember what chapter we're on because I'll switch around. But anyway, can somebody tell me what chapter probability is in? Let's see, we just did 5 and 6, didn't we? So I think it's 3 and 4 or chapter 4. Somebody help me out with the outline.
It's chapter 7.
Oh, chapter 7. Okay, I really suck then. All right, chapter 7. Do we go through A, B, C, and E, or what do we go through in the outline?
A, B, C, and E.
Okay, so somewhere in there is the correlation and causality section, and you need to read it because it is very important. All right, so and I'm going to show you how to find all this in just a second with the calculator. So what else do I need to show you? Well, I need to show you about a lurking variable. What is a lurking variable? A lurking variable is something that causes correlation to equal causality. And I'm fixing to show you an example of a lurking variable. If I can find it. There it is. Here is an example, and I want you to write it down. Give y'all a second to write it down. Okay. So, what does this mean? This means drowning deaths the drowning deaths and the deaths by Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Does one cause the other? Because we have correlation. Yes or no? Do they cause each other? That means I want y'all to interact with me. I bet y'all all know go around dates and say, I want lettuce and water. I'm really not hungry. Go ahead. What?
They don't, right?
They don't. Okay. The correlation is it again. But is there a lurking variable? And this is where you have to use a little bit of common sense. And you have to look and think outside of the box. What do they have in common?
Water.
Rocky Mountain spotted fever and drowning deaths. Well, they have nothing in common, Hubert. One is transmitted by a tick on land, and the other one happens in water. They have nothing in common. That's when they have a lurking, like stalker, like lurking variable, which is what?
Hot summer weather.
Hot weather. A lurking variable, think of it as a third, I don't know, a third person going out on a date with you. In other words, it is a third thing that's with the other two. Even though the other two doesn't have anything to do with each other, the lurking variable connects them. And that is what I was telling you about a while ago. You either have correlation or you don't have correlation. And then the third thing is you have a lurking variable. And that is a test question, or it's a homework question. I can't remember. But the drowning deaths and the deaths by Rocky Mountain spotted fever, they have nothing to do with each other, but there is a lurking variable. And these are the hot weather months. The 3 months that they measured are the hot weather months, maybe June, July, and August. That would be a very high drowning deaths and a very high Rocky Mountain spotted fever, because what do people do when the weather is nice? They either go swimming or they go hiking, or they go outside and work in the yard, or, you know, go outside and bush hog the pastures and work the cows or do something. They're outside doing stuff. All right. Now, that's all the definition / reading stuff. Now let's go to the math stuff. And the math that you're going to be using in this section is math that you are used to using. There you go. Write it down. Slope and the point slope equation. Yeah, you need to do something in your laundry room, or Mr. Stewart, you need to put some pictures up or something. I mean, I'm a bachelor, and I think you need to put some pictures up.
I may need to. It's pretty bad.
Listen, it's real easy. You know what I did? I bought 2 calendars, 2 Coca-Cola calendars that had these drawings on them. You know, when you open it up, you got a drawing on top and the calendar. I ripped them all off, put them in frames, and put them all around my house.
Oh my Lord.
So that's what you do. And you know what? You can't even tell that they're from a calendar.
Yeah.
You know, like Norman Rockwell calendars. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, you don't. Okay, well, it's your parents' fault, Miss Charity. That's what it is. It's your parents' fault. I'm going to show you. Y'all don't know what Norman Rockwell paintings look like? He's been around for like 500 years. You know what y'all going to say when I show you? Oh, yeah, I know what that is. No, I don't. I collect Coca-Cola memorabilia. That's why but I don't care nothing about it now. But anyway, Coca-Cola, there should be some right there. There you go. Y'all never seen Norman Rockwell pictures and paintings?
I think I may have heard of them, but not entirely.
Well, it's not. I mean, these are, anyway, I'll shut up. There's a guy in South Carolina named Davison, and he does a lot of Coca-Cola old signs on the side of barns. He's an artist. I've bought some of his stuff too. His name is Davison. He lives around Columbia, I think. Harold Davison, I think. I think his name's Harold Davison. I have to look it up. Okay. Anyway, I got pictures. I just bought me a calendar and had a bunch of these pictures, and I took them out, and put them in frames, matted frames. And
Yeah.
You can't even tell. So that's what you need to do.
That's a good idea.
But I wouldn't put them in the laundry room. Coca-Cola don't go in the laundry room. So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Well, neither does a desk.
I really don't have anything in my laundry room either. So I can't really talk about yours. I'll shut up. All right, so here you go. So I want everybody to use those 2 points right here, and I want you to find the equation that goes through those 2 points, the line that goes through those 2 points, using the slope and the point-slope equation. And if you can't do it, then that means you're pretty much a failure when it comes to point, slope, and slope. So go ahead and do that in the next minute. And the reason I'm not giving you much slack on this is everybody should remember this. I mean, you studied it for 3 years, pre-algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2, and maybe even pre-cal. So I know you've had this before. You might have sucked at it, but you've had it before. So it looks like a rainy weekend. What do y'all think?
It's going to be rainy for a while,
Yeah,
but I enjoyed the weather while it lasted.
I love rainy weather. I love thunderstorms.
I enjoy thunderstorms more than rain.
You do what?
I enjoy thunderstorms more
Do
than
you?
just
I
rain.
love thunderstorms and rain. There's a certain type of person. There's two phobias, not phobias, but bias, that love rain and thunderstorms. And I'm one of those people. And Coca-Cola calendar pictures.
They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy watching storms on the ocean.
Oh yeah.
Watching the lightning hit the water.
I kind of like the ocean too, but I can only take about 3 days of it. After 3 days, I'm ready to come back home.
My family goes for a week every year. And that's about all we can handle.
I have to push it to make it a week. I really have to push it. But people that grow up down there, they probably feel the same way about the mountains. Come to the mountains, they can only stand it about a week. I'm glad I live where I live, and I'm glad I was born in the United States. Because like I've said, I may have told you before, once you go in the military and you see how other people live around the world, you kiss the ground when you get back to the United States. There's only 2 places I'd probably live in the world besides the United States. One is Australia, because the prime minister down there don't take no crap off of anybody. And 2 would be Scotland or Ireland, and that's just because that's where all my people are from, and that's why I would go there. They'd probably throw me out.
I want to visit Australia sometime.
I would too.
Or Switzerland.
I don't care nothing about going up there. No, don't care anything about that.
No, I think the mountains look cool.
Oh, yeah, that would be beautiful. Yeah, I'd go there for a day just to look at the mountains and I want to get on a plane and leave. But yeah.
Or maybe like a road trip, like around.
Yeah, I think we ought to have a field trip. You know, everybody bring $10,000 to class and we'll go on a field trip. And I'll
Sounds
get
like
fired.
a plan.
M is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Hubert, why are you doing those parentheses? I do these parentheses when I was a student. I do them as a teacher. And 20 years from now, if you come up to me and I'm in a wheelchair drooling all over myself, I will still, and ask me to do the slope, I will still use those parentheses. And I've got several degrees, I've got most of my teeth, and I have running water in my house. Why do I use those parentheses? Anybody? What do y'all hate besides word problems? What do y'all as students hate more than word problems are the same? Fractions, okay, there's one, and then one more reason. What do you hate besides fractions and word problems? What are all of these numbers? They're whole numbers and they're what? Positive.
Positive.
What do y'all hate besides negative? Well, I just told you negatives. All right, so you got positive, you got negatives and fractions, and that's why you put these parentheses. But some of you don't need parentheses, and you have only a high school diploma, and you don't need it, and I have several degrees, and I still use parentheses. What's wrong with this picture? Okay, everyone in this class should use parentheses, everyone. But you won't because y'all invented slope. X sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. We read left to right. Plug and what? Plug and chug. 6, 2, 8, 2. 6 minus 2 is what? That'd be 4. And 8 minus 2 is 6, which is equal to 2/3. So part 1 is done. Part 1 is find the what? Slope. Now we're going to do part 2, and this black pen is going in the trash. Part 2, we're going to use the point slope equation. Y minus parentheses equals parentheses times x minus parentheses. And we have a slope that's equal to 2/3. Which point am I going to pick? I've got 2 points to pick from. Which one do you think I'm going to pick? Okay, you've got a 50-50 shot. You know that, right? I got 2 points. I got 2 and 2, and my finger just froze up. There we go. I got 2 and 2, and I got 8 and 6. Which one do you think I'm going to pick?
2 and 2.
And why am I going to pick 2 and 2? There's a certain method in mathematics. It's called the KISS method. What's the KISS method stand for?
I'm not sure.
Keep it simple, stupid.
I tell you what, your parents, y'all's parents, I'm talking to 2 people because the rest of y'all are weaned on a pickle. But Miss Stewart, your parents did good. Okay? The rest of y'all, I don't know if your parents did good because you're weaned on a pickle and you won't talk to me. So I don't know whether you know it or not. But keep it simple. I don't like to use the word stupid. There's 2 words I don't like. Y'all don't like the word, some people don't like the word moist. I don't like the word stupid and I don't like the word idiot. I hate those 2 words. Now, dumbass, that's one of my favorite words because that relates to more people. All right. 2/3, I'm going to pick 2 and 2. Which way do we read? Left to right. So this is x sub 1. This is y sub 1. Plug in what? Plug and chug, Hubert. Y minus 2 is equal to 2/3 times x minus 2. And now you solve for y. Y minus 2 is equal to 2/3 x minus 4/3. And then I'm going to add 2, add 6/3. And my final answer is y is equal to 2/3 x plus 2/3. I will test you on this. I'm talking maybe, if I give you 20 math questions, I didn't say bonus questions, I said 20 math questions, then probably 3 would be these, and 2 would be the definition or the graphs of causality and correlation. Excuse me. I got to lay off the Marlboro Reds. Marlboro Reds and vodka in the morning. Hardcore. Any questions on, I mean, there shouldn't be a question here. Everybody should be saying to yourself, oh yeah, I remember doing that in 9th grade, or I remember doing that back in 101 or 102 or Algebra 2 or Pre-Cal. Everybody in here should have done this before. Now, I've only got a few minutes. I'm going to tie all this together now. I'm going to go to the Excel spreadsheet. I want you to get your handy-dandy calculator out. Or if you want to pull up the Excel spreadsheet too, you're welcome to do that. We're not talking about formulas. I'm not going to make any formulas. You can actually use the Excel spreadsheet and not have to put in any formulas. So whichever one you want to do is fine. We'll make it a little bit bigger. Anybody seen the new show Clarice yet? Hello, Clarice. Y'all have no idea where that comes from, do you?
It's from Silence of the Lambs.
I tell you what, thank you, Justin. It's so nice. You know, your parents did good, Justin. They did good. Anyway, watch that. That is a good, I wish it was 2 hours long. It is a very good movie. I mean, show.
Is it a series or a movie?
It's a series. They come out with it. It's on the third. Last night was the 3rd episode. It comes on CBS, and I usually don't watch government TV, but CBS, and it comes on at 10 o'clock on Thursday night. And Thursday night sucks as far as shows, so that's a good show. It actually starts at 10 o'clock, and it's after Buffalo Bill. In other words, the first episode takes off of her being, you know, counseled by her psychiatrist with the FBI or whatever after they apprehended Buffalo Bill in the movie Silence of the Lambs, and it takes place there. And the girl that plays, she does a good part. Anyway, I'll shut up. All right, X and Y, and let's just make some. Let's go with 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 12. 13, 15, oh shoot. Hold on a second. 9, 12, 13, 15, 19, 20. And then my Y, I'm going to have to mix these up. 1, 5, 8, 2, 5, 6, 6, 4, 9, 11, 12. Now put those in your calculator or put them in your Excel spreadsheet, either one. Now on the Excel spreadsheet, I'm going to show you what we're going for with test questions. Okay, I give you this on a test, and I'm going to ask you for several things. So here's how you get them on the Excel spreadsheet. You highlight both columns, and then you hit Insert, and you go over to the scatter plot. There's a scatter plot right there. Click on the arrow. That will bring you the drop down menu. And there's the scatter plot right there. There is the scatter plot for those points. And that's what I want you to be able to do. I don't want you to draw by hand. I want you to actually do it, and I'll show you how to do it on your calculator. I may not have time today, but there's that. Now, how do you find the line of best fit? Right-click on one of the dots. Add trend line. That's going to automatically go to linear, but make sure it's on linear because in this class, we're only going to do linear. And go down to display and display. And there's are the three things, well, two things. I want you to be able to plot the regression line as well as the points, and then give me a equation for that line. Now you notice that R is not there, but R squared is there. So I want you to be able to take the square root of R squared. I'm going to do that down here. R is equal to, and we're going to take that point equals 0.6113 and raise it to the 0.5 power, or take the square root of it. Those are the three things that I want you to be able to do in the correlation and causality section. I want you to be able to find R, that's lowercase r, sorry. Makes a difference. I want you to be able to somehow graph the line of regression in the scatter plot. I want a equation for that line, and I want R. How do you do that I got 3 minutes. Here we go. Take your handy dandy calculator, hit stat, edit, and I'm going to plug them in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 12, 13, 15, 19, and 20. And I'm going to go punch my Y's in. 1, 5, 8, 2, 5, 6, 6, 4, 9, 11, and 12. Everybody with me? Yes, Hubert, we understand. Good. Now hit stat, calculate, linear regression. It will automatically read L1 and L2. All you have to hit is calculate and write down that information. Now, I do not use y is equal to ax plus b. For 3 years, y'all have learned y is equal to mx plus b. And then you get to this stupid 103 book, and it changes m that you learned for 3 years. They change it to a. So I'm going to ignore this book, and we're going to call it y is equal to mx plus b, like you've been learning for the last 3 years. Mx plus b, sorry. And AM is equal to 0.429648241, and B is equal to 1.976244861, and R is equal to 0.7818711515. Now, you don't have to write all this down, but you need to have it in front of you on the calculator so you can type it in to graph it. Now, watch what I do here. I want to draw my points. So I hit second, stat plot, which is y equals, see the stat plot above it? Second, y equals, enter on number 1, enter on the on, and then graph. You may not see it, so you hit zoom 9, which is zoom stat. There's your points. And now you type in your formula. Y is equal to 0.4296, at least carry it to 3 digits, x plus 1.976 and graph. And there is your line of regression. Now, everything I just did, including calculating right here, everything I just did on the spreadsheet and the calculator and this, you should be able to do. Okay. I can't take the roll because it's Friday and Tri-County Tech, School of Technology, cuts off the attendance tracker on Friday. I still don't know why they do that. So anyway, I'm going to shut off the recording and ask if anybody's got any questions. Let me tell you before you have any questions. What should you be doing?